A group of advocates in Albuquerque gathered enough signatures this year to put a proposed sick leave ordinance on the ballot. But as we tape this week, the Bernalillo County Commission is considering whether to allow the proposed ordinance to go to voters in November. Now, the issue is whether the city is allowed to put a summary of the proposal on the ballot instead of the full ordinance. Correspondent Stan Wilson sat down with a supporter and an opponent recently to hear both perspectives on the issue. Now, this interview is part of our series on working families for the 2016 elections.
Joining me is Ivy Rizzo, co-owner of the Fano Bread Company, a small business family-owned business based in Albuquerque, and Jason Espinoza, president of the New Mexico Association of Commerce and Industry. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Jason, let me start with you. Why are you opposed to putting a paid sick leave initiative on the ballot and allowing voters to decide?
You know, one of the things, we have several concerns with the proposed mandate that's before us. And one of the things is, you know, while it may be a worthy goal, we don't think that it's really gone through a complete stakeholder process. At the end of the day, this ordinance would affect businesses of all sizes, of all industries, and they need to be included in the process. Unfortunately, what the proponents decided to do was sidestep that inclusive discussion and just go to the voters for an up or down vote. It deserves more than that.
What specifically are you opposed to?
One of the things, it's the mandate itself. It creates a one-size-fits-all, which never works here in the state or across the country. You know, at the end of the day, you know, families are struggling in this economy. They need every dollar that they can have. Unfortunately, while some may benefit from this mandate, others are going to suffer. We've seen in other states that have passed similar mandates and that were actually less stringent, and the end result was reduced hours, a reduced workforce. And at the end of the day, we don't want to see that in Albuquerque.
Ivy, do you see that scenario unfolding?
No, I don't, and I feel like the people who put this this ordinance together did consult with business owners. I only see benefit from doing this. I think that right now our community as a whole is really concerned about our children. Child well-being is 50th in the country. Education is 50th, and you know, we're at the worst in the country. Child poverty, we're the worst in the country. So this is a simple, easy thing that we can put into place to, you know, right away to help, you know, all of our community to be able to take care of each other. I just support this completely as a business owner.
Jason is concerned that it would have an impact on business, on small business. What prompted you to provide a sick paid leave policy that you feel that should be expanded to other businesses, all businesses?
Yeah, you know, I have children, and when my children, you know, when I serve them food from restaurants or grocery stores, I want to make sure that that food is not being made by people who are sick. Every time that somebody comes, you know, and professional from, you know, the health inspector comes or my insurance adjuster comes, they say, you need to make sure that your employees are not coming in sick. This is an easy thing. This ordinance is simple. It's not going to take away anything. It provides just a floor, not a ceiling. So it's a minimal thing that we're offering, and employers can do more.
Does she have a valid point that it's a food safety issue, among other things?
You know, it may have some benefits there. You know, there are state regs in place that don't allow workers that come into the workplace to serve people in that case. So there may be some benefits. I think they're a little bit exaggerated, to be honest. You know, another place that we're worried is, you know, as Ivy points out, it creates a floor. A lot of employees and employers on the national trend has been to move to one bank PTO systems because it's increased flexibility. It's easier on the employer, and employees like it. They don't have to tell their boss where they're going. If they're sick or they're going to Disneyland, they can do what they want. And the way the ordinance is written, it tried to grandfather the system, and unfortunately it didn't do a good job. But what it did is create a floor. So if you have an employer creating 60 hours of PTO, well, the new floor, you know, whatever it may be, depending on the size of the employer, now those are converted to sick hours. That's disadvantageous to the employee. So we really see it as a negative to the employee as well.
I can answer to that. You know, I'm not only the business owner, I'm also the HR director, which is human resources. I have a master's degree in psychotherapy, and what we've found in, you know, mental health and in human resources is that employees do better when they're treated well by their employers, right? So when an employee knows, like, oh, my employer is going to do this, and they're going to listen to me as we go forward about more and more things that they need. It doesn't just improve the workplace. It doesn't just improve my business. It also improves their lives outside of work, which is really important.
So if this ordinance went into effect, how would you distinguish as an employer between an employee who calls in sick or decides to take a vacation day using this?
Honestly, it doesn't bother me. I don't mind. I think that people deserve to take care of themselves in the way that feels right for them, and I've only seen benefit. 24 years, our business is highly successful. We have over 25 employees, and what they do with their paid time off or their paid sick leave, I don't care. I want them to be healthy.
And that's a point we completely agree with. The employer shouldn't have to care or track what they're doing with that time off. Unfortunately, what we see as an unintended consequence of this is that the employer is going to have to. It sets a minimum for sick leave. So you can no longer offer that one general PTO bank system. You're going to have to track this to make sure that you're in compliance with the city ordinance.
Well, Ivy mentioned the point that, in her opinion, that the ordinance itself would strengthen the value of employees or valuing an employee if they have to care for a sick child or they're sick. How would this affect transient workforce? Because you represent a coalition of about a dozen organizations. That would include the employees who come and go in construction, for instance.
Right. Well, and that's one of the things that I'm glad you mentioned, the coalition. So there's about 14 different associations that are a member of our coalition, and they really range. I mean, it's from construction associations to the hospitality industry to the Council of Outfitters and Guides, who really do seasonal work and take people up into the mountains for that. And it just doesn't work with some business models. Some business models, you want to be innovative and flexible, so they may increase areas in certain benefits and pay in compensation for not offering PTO. But again, this creates a one-size-fits-all system, and that just doesn't work.
Ivy, how would you deal with it?
I don't think that it creates a one-size-fits-all system. It's an ordinance that provides us with a minimal starting point, and employers can choose to give more. And I feel like we have 107,000 people. The majority of the people in our community are not getting paid sick leave, right? So all of these parents are having to choose between taking their children to the emergency room when they have to go or putting food on the table. They don't have time. I mean, my children have an anaphylactic disorder where they have to go to the emergency room. Every single time I've been able to go because I have the wealth of being a business owner.
As a business owner with employees of, I believe you mentioned about 20 or fewer, 25 employees like yours, how can you afford to grow or offset the costs with, for instance, some estimates projecting the cost of paying for paid sick leave about $239 million a year?
This is nothing. It's 5 days out of the year. It's 1 day for every 240 hours worked. I mean, I don't know how we can expect people to go forward, how we can believe in the future of New Mexico, of our kids, without giving people the opportunity to take time off. I mean, we have to.
Jason, what specific provision in the ordinance, as we close here, do you consider the most harmful and the least understood that voters need to know before deciding whether to support or oppose it?
One of the things that's not talked about, and we say in the business community a lot, this ordinance is much more than just about paid sick leave. It's a 7-page ordinance. It's complex. And the voters really need to understand what's in it. One of the areas that doesn't get talked about a lot is employers at the end of the day need flexibility. Businesses ebb and flow depending on the season and what's going on. Unfortunately, there's a part written in the ordinance saying that there's the presumption of retaliation on behalf of the employer if they have to take a negative action, which includes reducing hours, possible termination, a bad review, in the event that a worker uses their rights under the ordinance, which means taking a sick day. So, we're upset that unfortunately small businesses, that if their business, the season's going down, so they're reducing hours, well, now they're liable in that they're under the threat of treble damages because they reduced that employer's hours because of that presumption of retaliation.
In closing, how would you address that issue?
This is a simple, easy thing as an employer. I just make a quick change in QuickBooks. It's about 10 seconds per employee. this is not a complicated issue.
Jason and Ivy, thank you. Appreciate you being here, and we'll be following this as part of our Working Family series through the November election.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, Dan.